السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. توحيدوسنة.com.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. As I mentioned in Jum'ah today, that we'll be continuing the topic of the Jum'ah, which was about the life history of Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah. For those who are not here in the past Fridays, we have covered the basics, or at least the major portion of the life that we wanted to talk about in our Jum'ahs in the previous 2 or 3 Jum'ahs. And because we wanted to finish the topic without any further delay to the other A'imma, therefore I decided that we will finish it at this time so that inshallah we can continue with the other A'imma in our Friday sessions. We talked about the beginning of Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah's life, the changes that came into his life, his devotion to the knowledge, his devotion to his teachers, and then finally taking over the position of his teacher after his teacher Hamad passed away, and compiling the fiqh. That was the first person to think about it, or at least who practically started compiling the fiqh. And at the same time, it was the time of Tabi'een, ending time of Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, the beginning days of Tabi'een. And there were a lot of students of Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een available to quote the ahadith and give the proper tafsir of the ayahs of Al-Qur'an Al-Kareem if needed and when needed. So it was the right timing for compiling the science, because you would always need proof from Qur'an and Hadith. So as we talked in Jum'ah, that Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah formed a committee of 40 people who all used to discuss the matter before documenting that. And before coming to a final decision, they all will give their ideas about it, their understanding of it, and they were masters in their own prospective fields like tafsir, hadith, fiqh, the language, and many others. So they used to deal with it from their own topic and field. And finally, as all of them will end with any decision, that decision will be documented, and that was called the fiqh of Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah. So it wasn't one person's opinion, it is a committee of 40 mujtahideen, 40 of those who all are considered to be on the level of ijtihad. And they discuss it, and finally when they agree to something, whatever the decision is, they would write that down, and that was called the fiqh Hanafi. Of course, because it was something new, many people had questions about it. Why to do something like this? Why would you need something like this? Many of them asked questions that why would you talk about situations that have not occurred yet? There were scholars who were of the opinion that if there is a situation that did not occur, did not take place, so we should not even consider it, we should not even talk about it. Let's wait until people will have to face it, then at that time we will discuss it. Just like when Qatada, a great mufassir, a student of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, came to Kufa. And he asked people to ask him any question about tafsir. Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah was in the gathering, and he asked him that in Qur'an Al-Kareem, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have talked about Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salatu wassalam. And he says that there was a person sitting next to Sulaiman alayhi salatu wassalam who said, I can bring the castle of Bilqis before your eyes will blink. So who was that? Qatada rahimahullah replied that his name was Asif ibn Barkhiyah. So Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah said He's sitting next to a prophet. Can any person be more knowledgeable than a prophet? How could Sulaiman alayhi salam did not bring it and he asked someone else to do it? Qatada rahimahullah said, did anyone ask you this question? He said, no. He said, don't ask me about it. That was the opinion, that if it did not come up, don't even talk about it. And if we don't know the answer, just end it there. Then he asked people, if you have any question about fiqh, you can ask about that. So Abu Hanifah rahimahullah asked him that if a person goes out of town, and especially now keep those days in mind where there are no means of communication, even nowadays similar situations take place sometime, but in those days it was more common. So the question was, if a person goes out of town and then he does not come for a long time, what should the wife do now? For how long she should wait for her husband? So he said, it was Umar radiallahu anhu's opinion to wait for 4 years. After 4 years, then she can spend the iddah and get married to someone else. He asked him the next question now, that what if the husband after 5 years came back to find out that she's married to someone else and she has a son too? She has a child from the other man. Now whose wife she is going to be? Again, Qatada's question was, did it happen? He said, no. He said, don't ask me about it. And similar questions were raised, and as I said, it wasn't because not necessarily that Qatada doesn't know the answer. That's not necessarily the fact. The point is that there were people of the opinion that if the situation did not rise, don't ask about it. Don't discuss it. But Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah was of a different opinion, and that was that try to think of situation that may rise at any time in this ummah. And then let's drive the ruling about it in the light of Qur'an and Sunnah, because we have many knowledgeable people around us at this time, and we will never have this much knowledge available to people, and especially knowledge from people of taqwa, knowledge from these students of Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een. Knowledge is very fresh, we have just got it from them, so we will never have these type of people available. We better find the solutions for all the problems that Ummah will be facing in future, because if we won't solve it at this time, they may not be able to solve it later on. That was his opinion. So they started discussing these type of rulings, thinking about a situation that may rise at any time, and they would discuss it. Sometime, this is one point now that to remember. Another point, sometime Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed Imam Abu Hanifah with a deep understanding that sometime he would come up with a solution that normally others will not think about. And by first look at the answer, it feels like it is against hadith. This answer cannot be right. Is not right because it's not understandable. It cannot be right because I know a hadith that means something else. So according to that hadith, this answer has to be wrong. But then when they would be told the other hadith where he is driving the ruling from, then people will agree with it. So with that type of very deep understanding, many times would just hear the ruling and have not heard where he got it from. So there were questions. So two reasons for questioning it. Number one, why would you discuss something that have not occurred yet? This is one thing. Number two, that the ruling that is driving are so deep that people have not thought about it before this, so they don't know if this thing really can be supported in the light of hadith, and many times they would think that it may be against a hadith. For these two reasons, there were many people who raised questions about it. And of course, on top of this, when you have people of knowledge, and a person with such a deep knowledge, such a deep understanding in a town or in a country, and when others are saying something, people would come and ask him the question, the same question, and his answer is different, and they go back to that person that, look, Imam Abu Hanifa said this about it and you said this. So of course, the person will be upset. So there were some people who got a little upset with it because of this reason, especially the judges in that time were upset with Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, that whenever people would have a judgment, they would go and ask him after the ruling was given. And he would say, no, that Qadi made this mistake. The other Qadi made this mistake. That Qadi made this mistake. People would go back and tell the judge that, sir, you made this mistake. And you made this mistake. Judges are upset that now people are finding out their mistakes. And they're going back and telling them what the fact is. So judges started complaining to the rulers that, look, this person is ruining everything. We give a judgment, and then he tells people the true ruling is just something else, and the judge made a mistake. So that was another reason that some people were very upset with that situation and with documenting it at that time. Imam Malik rahimahullah was asked once that who is the most knowledgeable people that you have seen that came to Medina Munawwara. Imam Malik is the faqih of Medina Munawwara. So he was asked, who was the most knowledgeable person that you have ever met? And then the person mentioned some names. That was Ibn Abi Layla, Ibn Shubrama. These were the judges of that time. And he mentioned the name of Sufyan al-Thawri, and he mentioned the name of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah at the end. So Imam Malik rahimahullah replied that, why did you mention him at the end? He said, when he came to Medina Munawwara, some of our people who did not like him, this is what Imam Malik says, some of our people who did not like him, they went to him with some very strong objections. And he knew that they came to him only to object, not to solve the problem. So he says, I was present. This is an Imam Muwaffaq rahimahullah, he's a Shafi'i, he narrates. He says, I was present, and those people who had prepared these masail for months before he came for Hajj, when they asked him a question, he told them the answer that was different than what they thought it would be, and he convinced them that this is the right answer, and not this. Then, when they were convinced, he told them this answer is wrong. And he gave them another answer, and he convinced them that was the right answer. When they were convinced, he told them this is wrong too. He convinced them of a third answer. When they were convinced, he told them the third one is wrong too. Then he gave them the fourth right answer. He says, you're talking about that man. When the reason Imam Malik rahimahullah mentions it, that he drives it so deep that the hadiths are common. But he says, look at this hadith and the meanings of the hadith and the driving of the ruling. That is the main point that the fiqh is all about. Driving the ruling. And that driving of the ruling needs very sharp and deep understanding. Besides having all the material available of Quran and hadith, a very deep understanding about it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with that type of very extremely deep understanding of all situations. For example, there was a person whose name was At-Tusi. He did not like Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. One day, when Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and he was very close to Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, who was the ruler. So one day when Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah went to Abu Ja'far al-Mansur for something, At-Tusi said to his people, today I will make sure that I get him killed. And it was common in those days. Someone said something against the king and he's gone. And people knew as a fact that Imam Abu Hanifa, he openly says things about them. Whenever they do something, he just comes up and he says that this is wrong and this is wrong about rulers. So, when Imam Abu Hanifa arrived, At-Tusi raised a question to Imam Abu Hanifa in that gathering, asking him that sometime the king, now Abu Ja'far is sitting there, sometime Abu Ja'far al-Mansur gives me an order to kill some people. Am I allowed to do it without questioning and just go ahead and fulfill the order? Or should I not fulfill his order when he gives me those type of orders of killing people? Now, the question is, if he says go ahead and do it, it's against the Sharia. How can you allow a person to kill people like this? And if he says do it, it's against the Sharia. If he says don't do it, right there. This is what Tusi wants. Next thing you will see, Imam Abu Hanifa is the next person that he will get the order to kill. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he says, at that time I remembered advice of my teacher Hamad. Subhanallah, look the closeness to the teacher and the importance of learning. He says, at that time I remembered one day we always used to go to Hamad, and he used to give us a lot of lessons and details of every lesson. One day we went to him, and I was a little disappointed that day, he says, that throughout the day, he just told us one thing, and that was the end of the whole session, programs, no more lessons. One thing he told us. He told us, when you are puzzled at a question, don't answer it, ask some other question to the person who's asking you. Fire it back. Ask a question to the one who's asking you. He said that was the lesson of the day. I thought I didn't learn too much that day. But that was the statement that I heard from my teacher Hamad that saved my life this day. He says, I thought, what should I do now? And I remembered what my teacher told me in these type of situations. So I asked him, I asked the Tusi, that when Amir al-Mu'mineen gives you the order, does he give you a rightful order where that person really deserves to be killed, or he just gives up an order to kill people that don't deserve to be killed according to the Sharia? So of course Tusi had no choice but to say, no, Amir al-Mu'mineen always he gives the order according to the Sharia. So Imam Abu Hanifa says, always follow the Sharia. If he gives you orders according to the Sharia, then you should always follow the Sharia. That's it. This is type of understanding. There was, during his time, once a situation came up where a person got into a very difficult situation. Robbers got into his house. They robbed his house. They took most of the things from there. And one of the people, he knew who he was because he used to live in the neighborhood. That person knew that this person had recognized me. So he held him. We normally call it on a gunpoint, but of course with a knife. Asking him to take an oath that his wife will be divorced if he is going to mention his name, or anyone here, if he is going to tell anyone who we were. And any wealth that he owns, he will go in a sadaqah if he informs anyone about anything, about any person that was in this amongst the robbers. Now, next morning he gets up. He knows the man. He can't complain. He goes to the fuqaha, explains the situation to them, that they have robbed me in this way. And they took an oath from me that if I would mention any of their names, then my wife will be divorced. I have already lost my wealth, then I will even lose my wife. And my wealth will be sadaqah, which means even the house that I live in will go into sadaqah. So what should I do now? And they said, if you mention the name, you are gone. It's a difficult situation. Finally, he went to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. He asked him what to do. He said, do you know, does that person come to our masjid at any time? He said, yes. Do you know when does he come to the masjid? He said, yes. Okay. Because he lives in the neighborhood. He says, go and complain that there are people who robbed my house, because the oath was if he would mention the name. People robbed my house and this is the situation. And then Imam Abu Hanifa explained to the police officers, people in charge in the neighborhood, that when he complains to you, the time that he tells you, don't ask him who the person was. He cannot say it. Let people leave the masjid one by one, and that every person ask him, was he the person? And he should say no if that wasn't the person. And if he is the person, he shouldn't say nothing. So their people are leaving one by one. So is he the person? No. Is he the person? No. Finally, is he the person? Okay, come with us. And this is how they got those people. Understanding. And really, it's a matter of Sharia where you have to solve it. That opens up a lot of avenues for people in the future to learn a lot of things from this. A lot of rulings to learn from it. That a person have taken oath not to say it, but he did not take an oath on staying silent about it. So there are ways of finding out through that. Khalid as-Simti rahimahullah says that there was a judge. Khalid as-Simti was a muhaddis of his time, but he was one of the 40 people in that committee that Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah formed. So he said once, there were two judges over there who did not like Imam Abu Hanifah at all. One was Qadi ibn Abi Layla, and the other was Qadi Shubruma. Once Qadi ibn Abi Layla was going somewhere, and he said, I was with Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah, we were also going for a walk. There were some people there who were in the park, and there were some women singing. So when they passed by those women, the women saw that it's the Qadi, it's the judge, and this is Abu Hanifah, two great people are coming. So at least this much haya was there in those days, that they stopped singing. Now, as they got close to them, Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah said, that was very nice. And they went. Qadi ibn Abi Layla asked someone to file a case where he would say, Imam Abu Hanifah is the witness. Imam Abu Hanifah will be my witness. And I will call him to the court. I want to talk to him about it. So someone filed a case where he said, Imam Abu Hanifah is my witness. Imam Abu Hanifah, as a witness, he had to go there. Qadi ibn Abi Layla asked him the situation. He said, are you the witness? He said, yes, this person asked me to witness for it. Your witness is rejected. SubhanAllah, the witness of such a great person rejected. He said, yes. That day me and you were walking. Those women were singing. And you told them that it was nice. So you agreed to the sin. And you encouraged them to that sin, telling them it was nice. So he asked him, did I say this was nice after they stopped, or while they were singing? He said, after they stopped. So mind thinking, I was telling them it was nice that they stopped singing. Not the singing itself. Stopping to sing when they saw us, it was nice of them. And Qadi ibn Layla had to accept the witness. These type of understanding, explanation of understanding, and really it shows what type of intellect the person has. Once Ibn Abi Za'idah was another muhaddis. He says, the ruling came to the fuqaha of the days and to muhaddiseen that if a person has a glass with some silver on some side of it, now drinking in pots made out of silver, glass made out of silver is not allowed. But how about if there is just a very little silver on some portion of it where you don't touch it, where you are not going to put your lips on it, just a small portion of it has silver on it. Is it allowed to drink from that glass? So many of them said because it's generally silver, so it should be allowed. Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah's fatwa was, it is not allowed, general ruling was, it's not allowed. Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah gave the fatwa that this was allowed. They asked him, where did you get this from? He said, from a hadith. There is no hadith about this. But I heard it. How can you hear a hadith that all the muhaddiseen don't know about? He says, do you know that it says in the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to wear a ring made out of silver? Yes. And then it says in the hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam drank a water. There was no pot or anything. So with his hand, he drank the water. Yes, that is there. So ring is in his hand, and he's drinking water using his hand as a pot. So a small portion of a glass has that small silver on it. Subhanallah. See the understanding. Where a person would ever think about it, that hadith refers to this ruling. during those days, another issue came up. People sitting in the masjid, and a snake came and fell on a person. It was going on a roof of the masjid, and it fell on one of the people. This person, to save himself, he quickly threw the snake away, and it got onto the next person. The second person was afraid, and he threw the snake away, so it got into the third person. The third person threw it away, it got onto the fourth person, and fourth person was bitten by the snake and died. A big question now, that who should pay the ransom for it? There is diya. There is a ransom that has to be paid. But who should pay? All three? Or the first person? Or the third person who threw it on the fourth one? And discussion started amongst the fuqaha, amongst the muhaddiseen, among the scholars. Some of them are saying the third person because he's the one who threw it on the fourth. Some of them are saying that the first person because he started it. Some of them saying that all three were part of it, so all three should do it. But what is the reason? Tell us some solid proof. None. Abu Hanifah rahimahullah, when they had that Ja'far al-Mansur, this was the good thing about those khulafa, that these type of important issues, they right away, they used to call all the fuqaha and all the muhaddiseen in one gathering. All of you sit and decide. Abu Hanifah rahimahullah said that my understanding is that it depends. It may be that none of them has to pay the ransom, and it may be that the third person has to pay it. The first two are out of it anyway, because when the first person had it on him, he threw it on the second person. Nothing happened to the second person. So the first person is out of the situation. His act is over. Second person threw it on the third one. Nothing happened to the third one. The second person is out of the situation. Third one threw it on the fourth person. Now, did the fourth person have enough time to throw it away? If he did, then the third person is not responsible because that person was negligent. And he did not take care of it himself. He let it be there until that snake did what it had to do. And if the third person did not get that chance, and people are saying really, it was right away, then the third person will have to pay the ransom for it. All the fuqaha and muhaddiseen agreed about it. And it became the rule. Qadi ibn Abi Layla gave the ruling in the court about it, so it was the rule that was issued. These type of situations that tell us that the understanding that when we talk about fiqh, what is fiqh? This will tell us what is fiqh. This is the reason I'm mentioning these examples. So we understand, because many times when we say fiqh, we don't know what is fiqh. We don't know what is understanding. We think that if a person will say that interest is halal, he's faqih. That is the fiqh. That something haram, make it halal. But this is the understanding. This is what shows that these people really studied it. They are having a deep look at the ayahs of Al-Qur'an and the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and through their taqwa, through their devotion to this knowledge, through their practice of this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with that type of understanding. And it wasn't only him. There were other people who had it. We are only talking about him at this time. But it was an extremely deep understanding. For example, similar type of situation happened in the time of Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, where a question came, is the hair of a human being najis or tahir? Is it clean or najis? And of course there was discussion about it. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah answered that in his book Sahih al-Bukhari. But if I tell you today, go back and use all of your computer softwares that you can find, and use whatever understanding you have of it and any book you can find about it to find that answer, you will not be able to find the answer in Sahih al-Bukhari. I'm guaranteeing you that. You won't be able to find it. Whereas the answer is in Sahih al-Bukhari. Imam Bukhari has given the answer. Where? He brings a chapter. The chapter called, is the human hair clean or not? This is the heading. Then he mentions the hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was on a journey. And they ran out of water. Miraculously, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam put his hand in a pot, and water started gushing from between the fingers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in said, we drank from that water, we took shower from that water, we all used it. This is the hadith. Where is the answer? Imam Bukhari is driving the answer, deep understanding that look, there are hair on the finger. And the finger is in the water. He takes his hands out, the hair is out of the water, and people are drinking from it and taking shower from that and making wudu out of it. Human hair is clean. They need a proof, and this is a proof. Yes, for us we can just say it's clean, but where is the proof? Look at the proof. Look at the understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed those people with. And as I just mentioned, it's not just only because of their studies, their devotion, their practice of what they learned, and their taqwa. Inshallah, we'll continue from there after Salah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. As we were talking about the understanding of the fuqaha, of the ulama, of the muhaddithin, of the Qur'an and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and driving the rules from the ayahs of the Book of Allah and the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And then keep in mind that rule has to be driven in such a way that it would not go against any of the ayahs. It would not go against any of the hadiths. And it should not go against any of the established rules of the Sharia. So it's not just coming up with an answer. It's considering all of these points, that it should never go against the ayahs of Al-Qur'an, it should never go against the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and it should never go against the established rules of the Sharia. Because a person may have given an answer today, and tomorrow he's giving a reply to some other question where he's breaking that rule. That's not allowed. You have to be consistent. You have to accept all of those rules that are established. And then accordingly, when you give a reply, it should fall within these categories, within those rules. And you should be able to tell that under which category does this rule falls into. So, all of these things are very important. Imam Abu Yusuf rahimahullah, who was the student of Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah, says that once I felt that I have learned enough that I can start my own class. So I started my class. Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah did not like me to start it at that time because he wanted me to keep on learning from him. He had his own plan for me for the future. But of course he did not ask for advice, he just went and started. Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah asked a person to go and ask him a question. The question was, a person took his dress to a laundromat, and the owner saw that the dress was very nice. He did not give that person any receipt, as there was no tradition, customs in those days of giving the receipt for it. So he did not give him any receipt for it. So when this person, the owner of this dress, went to take it back, hoping that it would be washed by then, the owner told him that, I don't know you. I have nothing from you. After some time, the owner thought that I have committed a sin. The owner of the laundromat thought that I have committed a sin by keeping the dress of that person. Why not return it to him? Because I don't want to pay it on the day of judgment. So this person went, he looked for the owner, and he gave him his dress. The question comes now, does this person, the owner of the dress, does he have to pay the laundromat the fee for washing it or not? It's washed. It's clean. He gave it to wash it. But when he went to get it, that person said, we don't have anything for you. After some days, he changed his mind. And he comes and he gives it. Should you pay him for it or not? This is the question. Of course, people are puzzled in it. They all are thinking in different directions. That should you say yes, he has to pay him? Simply means that although this person have done wrong to him and he have used his dress for some days and did not give it to him on time, and still he has to pay for it. If you say no, that person have washed the dress for you, you gave it to him for washing it, and you are saying that you don't have to pay him for washing it just because of the delay, what's the ruling? So different opinions were there. When it came to Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah, he said it all depends. The person went and asked Imam Abu Yusuf rahimahullah, and Imam Abu Hanifah taught him that if he says yes, you have to pay for it, tell him it's wrong. And if he says you don't have to pay for it, tell him it's wrong again. He went and he asked him. He says, you don't pay him because he delayed it. And he did not want to pay, give it back to you. He said, it's wrong. Okay, then you have to pay it. You have to pay the man. He said, it's wrong again. So tell me, what's the answer? So that man says to him, go and ask your teacher. Why did you start a class here for? Imam Abu Yusuf gets up, he goes over there. He asked him. Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah said to him that I know that just one dress, a question about one dress brought you back here. Why would you start a class without getting the proper knowledge and a complete knowledge of the fiqh and of the understanding of the deen? Don't do that again. And then he said to him, it depends. If that person changed his mind before washing it, and he thought, I'll keep it for myself, and then he washed it. So the owner of the dress does not have to pay him because that person did not wash it for him. He washed it for himself. He was going to keep it and wash it for himself. And if he washed it, and after that he changed his mind, so he washed it for you, you pay him for it. Subhanallah. What an understanding. Where you don't break any of the rules, you keep everything in mind. Ibn Abi Layla, as I said, was a judge at his time. A ruling went to Ibn Abi Layla. A question went where Ibn Abi Layla thought one of the two people is right, but the other person has some strong witness. So in order to reject the witness, he asked the witness, it was about a farm. He asked him, how many trees are in the farm? He said, I don't know. So I'm rejecting your witness because you don't have a full information about it. That person went to Imam Abu Hanifah to ask him, he said, who would know the number of the trees in the farm? But I need a solid proof from the Sharia point of view to tell Ibn Abi Layla that this is not right, to ask me this type of question. He said, okay, go and ask Ibn Abi Layla, does he know how many pillars are there in his masjid? He went and asked him. In the courtroom, he's asking judge, you asked me how many trees were in the farm that I'm witnessing for. How many trees are in the masjid where you have been praying for the last 20 years? He said, I don't know. He said, how do you expect me to know all the number of the trees in the farm? And he accepted the witness. But Ibn Abi Layla knew who sent him back. And therefore, these things were going up. And his temperature was getting higher. At another occasion, there was a woman. She was known to be insane. One day she called someone, Ibn Zaniyain, that your father and mother, both of them are in zina, wal-iyaz billah. Now, she was insane, and the historians, Al-Muwaffiq rahimahullah, have narrated that it was known about her that she had a nickname. If you call her by that name, she gets very upset and she starts cursing at people. So this person went just to tease her, and he called her with that name. And she got upset, on the other hand, and she called both the parents, Zani wal-Iyazu billah. That person went to the court. And according to Sharia, with that type of claim of zina, you will be beaten 80 lashes. This is in Qur'an. So he went to Ibn Abi Layla. And he told him what had happened and what she told him. So he called her, and she admitted to the mistake that she made. So he said, his court was in the masjid. Right there, he made them hit her 160 lashes. 80 for each, for father, 80 for father, 80 for mother. Someone went and informed Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah that this is what Ibn Abi Layla did, and this is the ruling he issued. So he said, he made 6 mistakes in issuing that ruling. One ruling, 6 mistakes. People went and told Ibn Abi Layla that this is what Imam Abu Hanifah says, that you made 6 mistakes just in this one ruling. He got upset. He went to Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, the king. And he said to him, now you have to do one of the 2 things. Either I will resign, or you stop him from issuing his rulings. He called him. He called Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah. Why would you say he made 6 mistakes in this one ruling? He said, listen, the woman was insane. People know her as Majnoona. She is insane. You don't punish insane people for the mistake they make, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said they are not responsible for their doings. That's number 1. Number 2, the person who went and complained, she did not blame him. It was the son who went and complained. She did not blame him. She blamed his father and mother. Did the father and mother came to complain? That's number 2. Number 3, if father and mother did not come and he came to complain on their behalf, did he have any witnesses that he's their wakil? If he does not have the wikala on the person, how can he represent those people? In our system, any system, you cannot represent a person without having the authority from that person. Number 4, he punished her in the masjid. You don't apply the hudud inside the masjid. Number 5, he punished her for 2 things at once. The ruling of the Sharia is, if there are 2 punishments, you apply one when the person is not having any bruises or any marks of the first one, he's out of that situation, then you apply the second one. Number 6, when he punished her, she was standing up. The ruling about women, the hudud in women is, they should be sitting down when the hudud are applied on them. 6 mistakes. But Qadi ibn Abi Layla says, then I'm not going to be continuing with my judgments anymore. So Abu Ja'far al-Mansur says to Imam Abu Hanifah, you take over. He says, I won't. Then you let him do what he's doing. He said, I'm not telling him nothing. When people come and ask me the ruling of the Sharia, I have to tell them. He said, no, you are not allowed to issue no more rules. Don't give no more fatwas. That was it. So he was banned officially from giving any fatwa. It has been recorded in the history. During those days, his own son, who was also known as Hammad, his name was Hammad, his own son came to ask him a question of the Sharia. He said, no, the king has forbidden me from issuing a fatwa. I cannot issue it. Go and ask someone else. And he stopped issuing the fatwa during those days. Subhanallah, it so happened, Abu Ja'far al-Mansur had a fight with his wife. And he issues a conditional talaq to his wife. He wants to get out of the situation. And his wife took an oath. He says, you talk to me like this. She doesn't want to talk to him. Okay, I won't talk to you then. He was upset with his wife that I'm Amir, I'm the king, and you are disrespectful to me when you talk to me. Of course, he can be king of anyone else, but not there. So she says to him, okay, then if you think I don't know how to talk, then I won't talk to you anymore. Now he got stuck on the other side. She doesn't want to talk to him anymore. If you don't talk to me, then you are divorced. And she says, if I talk to you, all of my slaves are free and all of my wealth is sadaqah. After all, she's the wife of the king too. Now what to do? One of the two will be gone now. If she talks, then all of her wealth is gone. The wife of the king. Imagine how much she would have. If she doesn't talk, then she will be divorced next morning. He applies the condition up to next morning. Quickly call the fuqaha, call the muftis, call everyone. Please, get us out of the situation. No way. They told him that the only person that can answer this question is call Imam Abu Hanifah. He called him and told him that this is my situation. He said, I'm not allowed to give a fatwa. Said, okay, we will lift that ban from you. Just please get me out of this situation. Just get me out of this situation. He said, are you sure it will be lifted from me and you won't apply it on me again? He said, no, I won't apply it on you again. He said, you don't even have to ask no one. You're already out of it. What do you mean? He said, didn't you tell her if she won't talk to you till next morning, she is divorced? Yes. Didn't she tell you after that, if I talk to you now, then all of these slaves and everything is free? Yes. So she talked to you already. She already talked to you. After you told her that if she won't talk to you, she is divorced, she already talked to you. So that divorce thing is gone. She won't be divorced anymore. So see how easily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the understanding to understand these situations. And from there on, the ban was over. Ibn Abi Layla is again in a difficult situation. And again, this thing continues. A very important issue came up in the court at that time, where someone gave a wasiyah. At the time when the person was dying, he said that Imam Abu Hanifa will have certain person of my will. Imam Abu Hanifa went to the court and he had two people witnessing for him. Imam Abu Hanifa went to the court and he asked the person, and he asked for that portion to be given to him. Qadi ibn Abi Layla, of course, is upset. He says to Imam Abu Hanifa that, have you witnessed that person saying it? He said, no. Then I won't accept it. But I have two witnesses who were there. He says, no. If you haven't seen the person, and that person, if you haven't heard the person, then I'm not going to give it to you. Just two witnesses are not enough. So he says, Imam Abu Hanifa says to him, there is a blind man. Someone hit him. He said, I have another case here. A blind man, someone hit him. And he comes to the court, and he brings a person who hit him. What are you going to ask him? He has 10 witnesses saying that this is the man who hit him. Are you going to ask him if he has seen the man hitting him? Then, if he cannot see, and if he have not seen, of course, a blind man, he have not seen who hit him, there are 10 people who witness for him. So if you are going to reject that witness, then the blind people will be in trouble for the rest of the ummah. Right away, Ibn Abi Layla said, my mistake. Okay, tell me what you want. See the understanding. Right away, he's coming up with a solution that you're making the mistake there. See where you're making the mistake. That if you issue this ruling, it simply means no blind man will ever win in your court against the Sharia. Once, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah went to assign something to his student Qadi Abu Yusuf rahimahullah. And of course, to assign him officially, he had to the court to register it. The court is, Ibn Abi Layla is the judge. They go to Ibn Abi Layla Ibn Abi Layla now, he's putting him towards the end of the list. He calls the next person, the person that was there. He says, come. And now he knows that Abu Hanifa is sitting here. I'm going to show him what type of judgment I have. So one case goes by, Imam Abu Hanifa is quiet. He's listening. Next situation comes up. The situation is, a person says that here, this man have accused my mother of zina wal-'iyaz billah. So Qadi ibn Abi Layla turned to that man and he asked him, did you do that? Abu Hanifa gets up. Why are you asking the man? Ask the person who's filing the complaint that what right does he have to file it? Again, the same ruling. He did not accuse him, he accused his mother. Why the mother is not here? Ask him, where is his mother? Why the mother didn't come? So he asked him, where is the mother? He says, my mother has passed away, so she's not here anymore. So of course I am the son, someone has to protect her. So now he turns to that man, did you accuse now? The mother is dead. Did you accuse his mother? Abu Hanifa says, wait a minute. You're in a big hurry today. Ask him that, does he have any witnesses that his mother is dead? What if he's just making it up? Okay, bring me 2 witnesses that your mother have died. He went, brought 2 witnesses. The witnesses have witnessed that his mother have died. Okay? Now, did you say this about his mother? Wait a minute. Tell him, ask him that if his mother is, of course, not there, then he should be the wakil. But, does he have other brothers? Because if he has other brothers, today he is coming with the case. Tomorrow the next brother will come, and third day the third brother will come, and each of them is getting her punished in the same manner. How can you afford to do something like this? Tell him if he has brothers, anyone else who is of the same level with the relationship with the mother, then all of them should come. Or he should have wakala from all of them that I represent all of them. So tomorrow the second person won't be able to raise the same question against her, against this man. Do you have brothers and sisters? No. Bring shahad. Now he learned. So okay, go and bring me witnesses that you don't have brothers and sisters. He went and he brings the witnesses. Now Qadi ibn Abi Layla turns to this man and asked him, did you say this about his mother? He says, wait a minute. First thing, let's finish with this man. Ask him, is his mother, when his mother was there, was she a slave woman or she was a free woman? Which means a slave or free, because there were a lot of slaves in those days. So slave of a free person, that will make the difference also. Was your mother slave or a free woman? She was a free woman. Okay, bring witnesses on that. When he brought the witnesses on that also, then Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said to him, now ask this person what you need to ask. So, going through all the stages where you don't go against any of the rulings of the Sharia, you are fulfilling all the rulings and keeping all of those things in mind. It's an understanding of the Sharia. It's the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed him with. And this is why Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah used to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have blessed Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah with the understanding that if people will not go through him to understand those points, they will never be able to get to those type of deep understanding of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There are so many incidents narrated in the books of history, so many that still I have to mention, but the time does not allow. Really, there are hundreds of them, and such deep understanding, so many interesting ones, amazing situations that raised during that time, and beautiful answers that were given by Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, like Imam A'mash rahimahullah. Once he divorced his wife, saying to her, there was some disagreement, and he says to his wife, if you don't talk to me up to Fajr, you're divorced. Imam A'mash is the teacher of Imam Abu Hanifa. He says to his wife, if you don't talk to me up to Fajr, you're divorced. Now, the wife is also upset that night. She's not thinking right either. He didn't think right. She's not thinking right. And she doesn't want to talk to him anymore. She have decided that she will not talk up to Fajr. She didn't say anything. Now in the first situation she said something, he got that person out of it. But she didn't say anything. Imam Amash went to him. Please find a way for me. He said, what can I do now? Did she say anything back to you? No. I don't find a way for you. Okay, don't worry. You just go home. Imam Amash knows Imam Abu Hanifa, so he goes home. And all of a sudden, when they heard the azan of Fajr, Imam Amash got so upset that, look, he didn't find no solution for me and he got me in this situation. My wife is divorced. And next thing they hear is, Imam Abu Hanifa is knocking at the door. And the argument is going in the house. She's saying, Alhamdulillah, now I am out of your situation, out of this home. I'm not going to be with you anymore. And she is going on and on. Imam Abu Hanifa says, I'm sorry. You still belong to this house. Because it's not time for Fajr yet. It was called, the adhan was called before the time. So it's not time for Fajr yet. He asked the person to call the adhan before the time of Fajr would start. So she would think it's already the time of Fajr and she would tell him, I'm going. And therefore, she have talked to him before Fajr. Understanding of it. Finding the solutions. Finding the rulings. And just like one of the great people of that time who was a very wealthy person and known also for his salah and taqwa. His son died. Young boy died. When the janazah was passing by the house, the mother got out of control. She does not have her hijab on and she comes out of the house. Quickly, someone gave her a sheet, but the husband is so upset. Number one is he lost his son, but on the other hand here, he sees his wife coming out of the house in that situation. A virtuous man cannot take that situation. Cannot accept something like this. Of course, quickly, people gave her a sheet and she covered herself. Mother, she lost her senses. She's out of her mind. Her young boy, son, have died. And he says to her, you have to go back home. He shouts at her to go back home. She says, no, I won't. And if I go back home without janazah, then everything that I have is sadaqah, is all free. This was a normal thing that they used to say in those days. Everything is sadaqah, everything is free. And it was a normal habit, man, during those days. If you don't do this, then you are divorced. Now, she said this and he's upset. So he said, if you don't go back home and you continue with us anymore, then you are divorced. SubhanAllah. It's a janazah on that hand. Now on the other hand, you have another difficult situation. She says, if I don't do the janazah and go home, then everything is free. If you don't go, if you continue coming with us with the janazah, you're divorced. What to do? Sufyan al-Thawri was there. He said, quickly call him Abu Hanifa. They asked him, this is the situation. He said, wait, don't worry about it. Put the janazah down. He said to her that if you don't go back and you continue with us, then you are divorced. And she said, if I don't do the janazah, then everything is free. Okay, let's do the janazah over here. So she won't continue anymore. So whatever he said is still is there. And she is not going to go home without the janazah. Let her do it over here. So both the situation are still in effect, and no one will lose anything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said, there are hundreds of these situations that we find in the books of Seerah. And amazingly, that most of these are narrated by scholars. When I was reading it really myself, when I started studying this in depth, I thought that many of these, maybe these situations, people are making it up. But that would be the situation, and it would be acceptable to say that if these things were narrated by those who were the students of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. But amazingly, that most of these, and in fact, everything that I narrated today, they are only called it, and I narrated them only from the books written by the followers of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. All of these incidents that I narrated, they are all from the books of people that were Shafi'i, like Imam Suyuti rahimahullah. He wrote a book about Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. Al-Muwaffaq rahimahullah wrote a book about Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. Ibn Hajar al-Haythami wrote a book about Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. And these incidents that I narrated, they are all from these books. There are many other fuqaha of the Shafi'iyya who wrote books about the life of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and they have quoted these incidents in their books. With all of this, it seems that this man was only in this field. All he knew was fiqh and hadith and whatever else, but this is all he knows about. But amazingly, when you look at the other part of his life, you will see a life full of ibadah. Subhanallah. People who are in the field, they know how difficult it is for us to keep both of these together. A person who's busy documenting the fiqh, and he's the first person who started it, and he's the amir, he's the leader for that, and he's the teacher. How busy he would be. But this is a man about whom it was known that never takes him more than 3 days to finish one Qur'an. He recites 10 juz every day of his life. During the month of Ramadan, every day 2 Qur'an. 60 Qur'an during the month of Ramadan this man would recite. There are only 4 people who are known to have finished Qur'an al-Kareem, the complete Qur'an, in 1 rak'ah inside the Kaaba. 2 of the Sahaba, 2 of the Tabi'een. Of the Sahaba, Uthman bin Affan and Tamim al-Dari radiyallahu anhu. Of the Tabi'een, Sa'id bin Jubair and Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. Only 4 people are known to have finished the whole Qur'an in 1 rak'ah inside the Kaaba. You would think, where is he getting all of this time from? There was one of the great muhaddiseen, well known, a person who studies the hadith, knows this name, Mus'ab ibn Kidam rahimahullah. He was the teacher of Imam Bukhari's teacher and the student of Imam Abu Hanifa. He was one of the 40 in the committee of the 40 people who used to discuss the rulings before they would document them. Mus'ab ibn Kidam rahimahullah. Well-known muhaddis. He says, when I started going to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, I saw him that after Salat al-Fajr, after the sun rises, he sits with the students. And he sits there up to the time of Salat al-Dhuhr. Then after Salat al-Dhuhr, he sits with the students up to Asr. From Asr to Maghrib. Maghrib to Isha. I said to myself, this man is too busy with just teaching. He has no time for ibadah. When does he perform any ibadah? And I have heard that this person performs a lot of ibadah. He recites so much Qur'an, he does so much of this. I don't see none of that. This is what Mus'ab ibn Kidam says. He says that I decided that I'm going to watch this man during the night. Also, he must be needing a lot of rest. He must be very tired after all of this work. From Fajr till Isha, he's busy with his students. So, he must be having a good rest at night time. So when does he perform the ibadah? He says, it was the first day for me over there, so I stayed in the masjid. When all the people left the masjid, I saw Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and I was in the corner of the masjid. He didn't see me. He came into the masjid. But now when he came, he had some nice dress on him, with a lot of fragrance, beautiful perfume that he has on him. And then he finds out to tell us that this was a secret about Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, something that he also used to encourage others to do, that he used to say, for tahajjud, for standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in night time, you should have some very nice dress, better than what you wear in front of people. He says he came into the masjid and he started reciting Qur'an in the salah. I said to myself, let me watch for how long he's going to recite. He continued reciting. And he recited 5 juz. I said, now, he may be finishing it now. He finishes 10 juz. I said, now. He went into the ruku' after 15 juz. And he continued reciting Salat al-Tahajjud until it was the time for Adhan al-Fajr. Before the mu'adhin would come for Adhan al-Fajr, he went home, changed his clothes, came back for Salat al-Fajr, just like any other normal person. No one knew that this man spent the night in the masjid. He said, I said to myself, this is temporary. Of course, he's doing it today. He can't afford to do this every day. Next day, he's going to be having a good rest tomorrow. He'll be sleeping the whole day. Next day, he's as fresh in the class as he was the day before. And he spent the whole day with us. Night time, again, after everyone left, I see him coming into the masjid, tahajjud, up to the time of Fajr. Before the adhan of Fajr, he leaves, he goes home. And then he comes back after the adhan, just like any other person, so no one knows he was in the masjid before that. Subhanallah. Said, I watched him for the third day. And it was the same thing the third day. So I had no choice but to go and knock at his door when he was not home. Someone came out. I asked the person that this is the house of Imam Abu Hanifah. Yes. Just tell me one thing. When does he sleep? Tell me, when does he sleep? When does he go to sleep? They said, do you see him leaving just before the adhan of Zuhr? Yes. He comes and he gets a little nap at that time. That's all he sleeps. That's the only time that he sleeps. And as the fuqaha, as the scholars around him who watched him very closely have narrated that for 40 years this was his daily schedule. For 40 years this was his daily schedule. He spends the whole day with the people, and he spends the night in the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The only time he would have some rest was just before Salatul Zuhr. Barakah in the time. Barakah in the sleep. In the short period of sleeping, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a lot of barakah for him. Just like a person from Makkah Mukarramah whose name was Salim bin Salim. He is from the progeny of Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu anhu. He says that when Abu Hanifah rahimahullah came to Makkah Mukarramah, he is stationed at my home. Throughout the time he was in Makkah Mukarramah, not a single day I saw him sleeping. I watched him very closely day and night. I have never seen him sleeping except a little nap before Salatul Zuhr. And the rest of the time, when I would go, he said, there were only two people that I have seen of that caliber and of that category. One was Imam Abu Hanifah, the second Sufyan al-Thawri. Whenever I go to the masjid, either they are doing tawaf or they will be performing salah. One of the two things. I have never seen these people out of these two ibadahs. Imam Abu Hanifah and Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah. This is the ibadah of these people. That's something that we think that this person who's busy with all of this, he may not have time. But remember, that was the barakah. All of the barakah in their time was through that ibadah. All of that understanding was through that ibadah. It's not just sitting with books and then giving talks and just giving fatwa and just being out there. No, ibadah of the night time that they learned from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In fact, Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah, he set a rule in his gathering that when people were not able to understand a ruling and come up and find the solution for it in the light of Quran and Hadith, he would say, it might be because of some of my sin. Right away he would do istighfar, and sometime he will get up and perform 2 rak'ah salah. And then he would come back and sit with people and ask them to restart the situation and start thinking, reconsider that situation, and they would find the solution for it. When Fudayl bin Iyad rahimahullah, he knew about this, he started crying, and he said, this is a man who had no sin, so whenever he would sin, he would feel it, and right away he would get it washed. And we have so many that we don't even feel it after committing it. This is the barakah of the ibadah. This is something that we really need to learn from the life of these scholars of Islam. All of them, something very common in the life of all of these scholars of Islam, regardless of which field they worked in. Ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Spending the time before Allah. Getting up during the night time. Sacrificing their rest and praying to Allah. Reciting Quran. Performing Salat al-Tahajjud. Begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Making dua. And istighfar, seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness, that will keep their hearts and their records clean, so that they have the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of this ilm, because of this taqwa, because of this understanding, rulers wanted Imam Abu Hanifa to be on their side. And therefore, they were offering him to become the judge. Ibn Hubayra was one of the very well-known rulers. And he asked Imam Abu Hanifa to become the judge. Imam Abu Hanifa said, no, I cannot accept it. He forced him. Imam Abu Hanifa rejected it. He put him in prison, and they used to beat him 10 lashes every day. Finally, when he was afraid, if we continue doing this to him, he may die someday with this punishment, he let him go. After him, it was the time when Abu Ja'far al-Mansur became the king. He called Imam Abu Hanifa. And he called Mus'ar bin Qidam, that we just talked about, who have seen Imam Abu Hanifa's life on a daily schedule. He called both of these, and he called Sufyan al-Thawri and Ibn Shubruma. He called all of these people to make them judges, because they were considered to be some of the most knowledgeable people of the time. So he wanted them to be on his side. As far as Sufyan al-Thawri, as soon as he heard about it, he ran to Makkah, and he went and hid somewhere that no one could find him until Abu Ja'far al-Mansur died. Mus'ar ibn Qidam, he played a game. He went and he pretended that he doesn't know what's going on, just like an innocent person. So he goes to the king, he says, oh, I like your clothes. They're so nice. How many animals do you have? How many animals are out there? And how many horses do you have? So he said, I heard so many things about him, but look, he's worried about my clothes, my dress, my horses. He says to him, okay, I'm sorry, you can go back. It came to Shubruma. Shubruma said that I really don't fit that position. He said to him, I'm not asking you. I'm just telling you that you have to accept it. So he tried different things, nothing worked, and he was forced to take it. The fourth one, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, his turn. He says, I'm not suitable for it. He said, no, you are. He said, then how can you make me a judge? You're telling me that I'm lying. You know his way now. I'm saying I'm not suitable. You're telling me, no, I'm suitable, which means I'm lying to you. So if I'm lying, then I cannot be a judge. And if you accept what I'm saying, then I cannot be a judge. He says, there is no way you're getting out of it. You have to take it. He says, I won't take it. He says, I swear by God, you will be taking it. Abu Hanifa says, I swear by God, I won't take it. SubhanAllah, it's a big challenge now to the king. People around the king, they started telling him that, look, king is taking oath. You should fulfill his oath. This is the king, this is the ruler. He says, if he has taken oath, I have taken oath also. And he can pay the ransom for his oath more easily than I can. So let him pay for it. I'm not going to pay for it. He put him in the prison. And they started torturing him. This is the Imam of his time. This is the person about whom Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah used to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the understanding of the deen, that I have never seen any person having that understanding of the Qur'an and the Sunnah. This is the person about whom Abdullah ibn Mubarak, Amirul Mu'mineen fil Hadith, used to say that if Allah had not helped me through him, I would have been doing bid'ah in my life, and I have been going away from the deen. This is the person that was known about him, that who fasted for 30 years in his life. Continuously 30 years of his life, he spent his 30 years of the life fasting. And now he's being tortured. Why? To take the position of being the king, of being the judge. And then the king thought, maybe better offer him a higher position. And he came up with a solution with another position called Qadi al-Qudaa, which means he will be the main judge and the one who will be ruling all the judges. And then he said to him, you don't have to sit in a courtroom. You just have to watch over all the judges. He said, this is even more difficult. I'm responsible for all the judgments that are going on throughout the country. I cannot be even responsible for my own. I'm not willing to take that responsibility for myself. You want to take it for all the judges? I cannot do that. And they started punishing him, tortured him so much that he was almost like a dead person. And finally, when they saw his situation, they knew that he may die any time now because of that torturing, because of those things that he had gone through on their hands. So they did not even take that situation, and finally they poisoned him in the prison. Poisoned him and let him go home. He came home, subhanallah, was so sick that people had to lift him up. But he said, still take me to the masjid. I heard Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. I have to go and perform the salah. He went into the masjid. He was in the sujood with the Imam, and he took his last breath and passed away. That was the year 150. The same year, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah was born. So, Imam Abu Hanifah rahimahullah passed away in the year 150. And this is how he became shaheed on the hands of the rulers of that time. But there is so much for us to learn from the life of these people, and from the life of many other scholars of Islam, who devoted their lives for the deen of Allah and did not accept to do a single wrong thing. As Abdullah ibn Mubarak says, that he was offered positions that others were willing and begging for it. Not only that they were willing, they were begging for those positions, and he was tortured to take it, and he refused to take it. He was offered all the wealth. He was offered a position that was just next to the king. It was just next to the king. And he said no. And what type of khilafah? It was a khilafah that was considered the largest khilafah on the surface of the earth at that time. He refused to be part of it because of the injustice that was taking place. Because of the wrongdoings that were there, he said, I cannot be part of it. And he refused it. He gave his life for it. How many lessons are there for us to learn from these scholars of Islam? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to learn our lessons from them, and give them rahmah, and bless them for whatever they have done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and for the sake of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and for whatever benefit we take from their knowledge, and however we are able to understand our deen because of their efforts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them for all of that. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.